Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Well, welcome back. I hope you are having a fantastic 2024. It is amazing. It seems like every year seems to go by a little faster. Well, a couple important actions. It's all about taking decisive action. One is definitely, if you haven't done so already, is subscribe to the podcast. Now that we're on multiple platforms and channels, we're so excited at the feedback and the growth. It's all because of you. And we are grateful to be able to continue to have a meaningful contribution, not only to you, but also to the profession and to the perspectives of so many people, both in and beyond this valuation industry. And then second, definitely throw some comments in there. You're going to absolutely love our peer and guest today. A wonderful demeanor, just so uplifting. And you're just going to be overwhelmed with a sense of, oh my goodness, of course. So make sure you do that. I am so excited today for our guest, Kelly Davids. Thanks for joining us.
Michael, you are so kind. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are very welcome. We're so thrilled to have you here on the Perusing's Power of Value podcast. So you know the opening question, and that is, were you born this way, or how did life get you to the appraisal profession?
Oh, Michael, I was so happy that 25 years into my career, my appraisal born on date happened in May 2005. At that time, a governor appointed me to be superintendent of the Ohio Division of Real Estate and Professional Licensing. And that's where I was first really introduced to the appraiser regulatory system.
Holy smokes. You know, I love that. Every podcast is different, and here we have a born on date. I mean, this is even better. I love that originality. That is just
even better than that. I have no expiration date. I will always be I will always be an unabashed champion of appraisers and the appraiser regulatory system. It is in my DNA now.
I absolutely love that. So it sounds like you had a they might call a lengthy gestation period between whenever you came into maybe a professional environment until you're born on date in the industry. Where'd you get started? Did you take an educational approach, or did you just jump right into the working world, or how did life develop for you, Kelly?
Oh, it's just been a fascinating and extraordinary route, one that I didn't envision growing up in rural Ohio.
Wow.
I'm an Ohio girl, have lived here all my life. And the vision that I had in that little tiny town was to be mayor someday of my little community.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was the biggest that life could bring me. That didn't happen in my little town, town. But what did happen is, after my obtaining of my first 2-year degree, I moved to the big city, a city called Marion in Ohio. It was about 74,000 people. And it's there that I ended up meeting my future husband. And he and I were intent on buying a home. So it was in the 80s. It was in the pre-S&L crisis days, where inflation was rampant. Interest rates were around 18% for a mortgage. But we wanted a home in the worst way. So we moved out to a little village about 17 miles away, bought a 2-bedroom home as our first starter home. And when we were going through the home, my real estate agent said, "Don't worry, honey. I know an appraiser who can get you that value so that you can get your Yeah.
I'm all choked up. Oh my goodness. It's just touching me.
Oh, little did I know that those statements would come back to haunt me later in my career. But from that little home that we lived in, there was a malfunctioning warning bell at a railroad crossing nearby. It took me to village council to say, "Hey, you need to do something about this. Somebody's going to get in an accident, get killed." There was an opening on the village council at that time. They said, "All right, little lady, if you want to do something, we'll just put you on council and you can do that." So they put me on council. couple months later, because there was mayor's court in the village and nobody wanted to be president of council, they made me president of council as a backup to the mayor. And then 2 months later, the mayor left, and I automatically rose to becoming mayor. Yeah.
This is the first. I love these podcasts because we have so many firsts. You're our first mayor on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I was at the time the youngest female mayor ever in Ohio at 22 years old, and I was just dumb enough not to know that I couldn't do everything.
I'm like, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
So my work there and what I did there led me to a countywide office. I was the elected clerk of the Common Pleas Court a few years later, and my work there led me to being asked to join the new governor's staff for Ohio. Really? Yeah. Wow. So in a few years later, when I joined that governor's staff, first doing constituent interface, I'm totally focused in my life on public service and making a government work for those who put us there.
Oh, wow.
That led to some other professional career opportunities, leading the governor's signature reading program for one called Ohio Reads. We put 56,000 volunteers into schools to help little kids learn to read and help those teachers expand their reach to help individual kids. And then from that, the governor asked me to, hey, Callie, can you go to the Division of Real Estate? We've got an appraisal program there that is in real trouble. The feds are about to not recognize Ohio's appraisers to do federally related transactions, and we need a turnaround change agent. That led me there. And that
a phenomenal
happened my born-on date, May 2005.
So people that have never had an opportunity to serve in a governmental capacity, what were you exposed to, and what would be a behind the curtains perspective that not just, for myself or just normal presiding citizens, but specifically maybe certified professionals, licensed professionals like appraisers would be more informed to hear?
Well, I think if you are fortunate enough to be in one of these roles in government, you really have to have a servant's heart. You have to put yourself in the shoes of those who you are serving. It's not a punitive role at all. It's a helpful role at all. At foremost, I mean, I was fortunate for the real estate appraiser regulatory program to have just phenomenal mentors serving on our appraiser board. People like Maggie Hambleton, who is just a pillar in the appraisal profession, who mentored me and helped me understand what was happening in the appraisal world in Ohio. And at that time, my board was like, Kelly, you've got to do something. The appraiser program right now, if an appraiser has a complaint filed against them, it goes in a drawer and isn't picked up for 4 years. It was taking them 4 years even to investigate. And that's not fair to the profession. And it also sends the message that appraisers don't have to follow our highly ethical standards. They can do whatever they want because we'll never catch up with them. And to raise the entire profession, you have to make certain that everyone is following USPAP. And that was I was, one of my early days, one of my staff members ran in so happy because she finally figured out what USPAP stood for. And that was just the acronym. So we worked.
You mean it wasn't a new form of popcorn, like cheddar cheese popcorn?
No, it wasn't goose poop either. But we worked really hard to not only know what the word stood for, but the substance of what they could bring to the profession. And then we incorporated that into everything that we could do.
Wow.
So I think you always have to put yourself in that customer-centered shoes. So what do they need? How can we make our government role serve those who have put us there? And how can we, in this case, help the entire profession rise up together and be something better than what it was?
That's fantastic. I mean, I think that's a wonderful sentiment. And then it also starts to touch on, as you said, if with a desire to serve, you have a need to handle multiple interests. Not all of them are aligned. And you had a number of positions starting with mayor and then moving on from there in the state of Ohio. What were you exposed to it, and what type of perspectives have you gained from when you first started as a 22-year-old mayor before you got appointed into the profession?
I think the most important thing is, especially in government, and this may sound strange coming from me, but in government, you have to put politics aside and you have to bring people together, because the real power is in harnessing the collective efforts of people. You have to have all perspectives at the table. You have to envision what that future is together, and then develop together those strategies and activities to get there. It isn't about, oh, look at me, I'm mayor, I'm clerk of courts, I'm XYZ, and I will tell you thus and so. That will never get you anywhere. It might get you a little bit, a little tiny bit, but for the good of whatever you're doing and the good of the people you're serving, for long-term stability and the future, you have to bring people together. And that's why I love this regulatory system.
Wow.
I'm a student of public policy, Michael.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm a lifelong learner.
Mm-hmm.
I got my bachelor's degree finally just shy of 20 years out of high school.
Congratulations. It's fantastic.
When I turned 50, my bucket list was to get my master's degree. I went back to school and did that. And there is such power in surrounding yourself with others of all different ages, of all different perspectives, and learning and being curious together about moving forward. So I encourage people to do both of those things.
That's great.
Work with people, be very curious about different perspectives, increase your learning all the time, and envision together what that future can be, and then lay out the strategies to get there.
That is, you said that so succinctly, but that is so powerful, and a wonderful set of building blocks that people can use at any point in their life and in their career to not just stay in the same place, but to really have a progression that over time can have a significant impact.
Thanks, Michael.
Oh,
it really is a pleasure to be part of this profession. By now, your listeners know I'm not an appraiser. I'd like to play one on TV.
You mean that's not on your bucket list, Kelly? I thought that was everybody's bucket list. They're like, well, one day I just want to be an appraiser.
But you know what? Here's what drew me to the profession after I was given that opportunity and then got really learned about the profession. Appraisers are intellectually curious.
Yes.
They're impartial truth seekers who power the world's economic engine. Most of them, many of them, are small business men and women, all of them with good intent to really do the hard work to produce a product that is good for those who have employed them to do it. And I am just enamored with this regulatory system because it involves the federal government, state agencies, and the private sector. It is a design unlike any others. People have said it's a unique system and it needs to be more standardized. I say no way. This is the perfect system that should be replicated in other instances because it is a system that by its design requires collaboration.
Yep.
It promotes cooperation and understanding of different perspectives. And because of its design, it is open and inclusive to all. We've learned recently through some of the reports that have been done about the appraisers and the appraiser regulatory system that we need to do a better job of helping people see themselves in our profession, of helping people see themselves as part of this regulatory structure. And I'm so pleased. There is no other profession like appraisers because when an issue arises, they don't dig in their heels and walk away. They come together and figure out what needs to be done. They do the hard work to create and solutions. And I'm impressed with what has happened in the last few years.
That's extremely encouraging. Many people share that perspective. A number of people don't, but it's helpful to gain some background on how you get to that point, because I think that's one thing that's missing for a lot of people is you just hear the current soundbite with no context of like, why do they say that, think that, or feel that? So that is extremely important. One interesting thing you mentioned, because you were tapped to step in for the state of Ohio to help out with compliance for the federal related transactions. What type of changes did you implement, and what type of skills did you have to draw upon to accomplish that?
Well, the changes that we implemented was really an intentional focus on doing the right things, correcting our mistakes. We worked hard to train up those doing the investigations to get them done correctly. Again, Maggie Hamilton volunteered her time. Members from our board volunteered their time to come in and really train a new team of investigators who figured out what were really violations of USPAP. What were these issues that we needed to address? Shortly after I became superintendent, the housing crash happened in 2008.
Got it.
And unfortunately, we found that a few of our ranks were doing some underhanded work with mortgage brokers and others.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to help them find other careers.
Yes.
But most of the people who came before our board just needed a little hand up, a little education, a little reflection in revision, because we'd rather build up than tear down.
Yeah.
And we accomplished that in a few short years. We turned the program around, and the appraisal subcommittee was extremely pleased with the turnaround, and they offered us up as a model for other states. And from that, I got invited to an AQB, congressional style hearing about the next changes of the criteria.
Yes.
They were considering updates, and they wanted testimony, including from state regulators. So I gave my testimony, after which I felt a little tap on my shoulder from a gentleman who said, "Hello, my name is Dave Bunton. I'm the president of the Appraisal Foundation. We're always looking for talent on our management board, the Board of Trustees.
Oh, wow.
And you should consider applying for an open position sometime." I was like, okay, I'll think about it. But right now I'm enjoying being superintendent. I was appointed under one governor. I was then serving under a different governor of the other political side of the aisle.
Oh, wow.
So I took that as a good sign that we were doing the right things, and it wasn't about politics. It was about serving in the way that we needed to serve. So when 2011 rolled around and another governor was put into office, politics did come into play, and I found myself with a little extra time.
You got to take your first professional sabbatical?
I did. So I worked on my master's full time, and I applied to be on the Board of Trustees in 2011. So I was chosen and became a trustee in 2012, just about the time that they were working on their initial strategic plan.
Oh, okay.
And strategic planning is one of my hidden superpowers. I really get into that. I don't know why, but it's kind of something that I enjoy. So after about a year and a half, when there was a lot of activity starting to ramp up, Dave Bunton approached me about coming on staff.
Oh, wow.
So I resigned my position as a trustee. Trustees, can't serve on staff, can't serve on both sides. Our trustees are volunteers purely. They can't get any money for what they do from us. So anyway, I came on staff, and it's been more than a decade there. And I really enjoy my role currently as senior vice president at the foundation. managing the day-to-day operations of our work, mentoring and focusing on staff development and strategic planning, and helping us accomplish the vision that the Board of Trustees and our stakeholders collectively laid out in what we call Vision 2030, our long-term strategic plan.
Nice.
So that's my current role, and that's how I got here.
80% of all businesses fail within 5 years, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. With so many roles and responsibilities that must be managed and have nothing to do with appraisal reports, is it any surprise that it's hard to keep up? Much less having a sense of peace, stability, and profitability that comes from growing your business? Given all of this, you might already be thinking about exiting your business one day. Don't miss the limited opportunity to work with Michael, a real estate expert and professional coach. He has worked with more than 300 owners and entrepreneurs to find their highest and best use by solving problems that reach their most important goals. Compress decades of learning into days by working with Michael. Michael is famous in real estate and business coaching. With his help, you can accelerate your growth, increase your quality of life, and earn more money, all while ultimately doing less. Michael helps you not just grow your business, but also find new purpose in it and in your life. If you're ready to take control instead of being controlled, contact him on LinkedIn or email him at michaelh@paru.com.
That's amazing. So, I mean, you had an opportunity to work in government under two different, as you pointed out, two different parties. And, until the last one, which kind of took more of the party line as opposed to the, let the best people be involved in the roles. What skill sets had you developed? And then what learnings did you gain by being in that position? Because I think that's one of the interesting similarities that real estate appraisers, valuers in general, deal with is you're an advocate for the work that you're doing, and that's it. If there's no political affiliation, there's no party lines. Some of the similar things you've touched on are just a core tenet, if you will, of this profession.
Yeah. The skill set that I've established over time has grown. I always thought of public service, but what does that really mean?
Yeah.
When you put yourself in the shoes of those customers who you're serving, it's not about just imagining that for them. It's imagining that with them.
Got it.
So you have to involve a collaborative spirit. You have to be open to other ideas. You may be completely convicted in your ideas, and somebody else may be yelling at the top of their lungs, completely convicted on what they feel is correct.
Yes.
But I think if we all take a breath, get away from the vitriol and the divisiveness that exists even more so today, the skill set that you really want to embrace is taking a step back, taking a breath, opening your mind to somebody else's perspective, really trying to understand where they're coming from, and then working together to find a path forward that is the best for the profession, that is the best for whoever you're serving, that makes more stability for the future of whatever entity that you're involved with. But being open to the possibility that somebody else behind those screens might really have an idea that can make you better is a good thing.
I totally get that. Yeah, that's really helpful. I appreciate you sharing that, Kelly. What else?
Yeah, so that's one of the skills, and you have to do other skills, in public service, no matter in government or where I am today. Your funding mechanism comes off the backs and hard work of those who support your efforts, right? If you're in government, there's probably a tax, our funding mechanism that was recognized by Congress back in the day. And, they didn't give us an appropriation. We are a private entity. They provided for optional funding through Federal Registry fees.
Oh, I see.
So no matter where our income comes from, whether it's sponsors supporting us, whether it's our council members supporting us, whether it's, materials or revenue off of our courses,
Mhm.
that came from somebody else's hard work,
Yeah.
right?
Point.
So you have to have that responsibility within you to be a good steward of those resources. So that's another skill set that you really have to understand your revenue, your expenses, and how can I best make those dollars that someone else earned really hard and put in our trust to promote what you want to happen.
Mm.
So I think really fiscal responsibility is key.
Yeah.
A third skill
Yeah.
that I think you have to have in any organization is understanding those that you have the fortunate circumstance to work with.
Mm.
Understanding where are their skill sets, understanding what are their superpowers, understanding how you can help them rise up to even expand what you're already doing in an even greater way. We do that at the foundation. We have a phenomenal, mighty little team of 14 to do all of our work. And
Amazing.
we used to work in silos without sharing information.
Mhm.
Over my decade that I've been here, we've learned and grown in a way that we now have cross-functional work teams. We understand what each other is doing. If someone is having a problem in one area, everybody else backs them up. And the power that has been unleashed is amazing. We are doing such higher level work than we've ever been able to do before. So whatever organization you're in, really take the time to harness the power that you have and the people that you're surrounded with and help them grow and develop in meaningful ways so that your organization can have its own superpower.
How did you develop that capacity? Because for all human beings, we're born with a certain set of skills, and then we have an opportunity, as you and many others have done, to take on investing in ourselves. So as many people famously quote Warren Buffett, the best investment you can make is in your own education and professional development. How did you develop that capacity?
I think, Michael, that it was over time,
Mm-hmm.
observing people and human interaction between each other. I mean, humans are a strange lot sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You really become a student of human nature. Watching people, figuring out how they interact, and then figuring out how to harness what they have. For me, I guess it's just because I've been around a long time in a lot of different settings. You can learn this stuff in books, and I've done organizational development courses, etc., throughout my levels of classroom education.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest education came from observing and understanding people and being very intentional about what you have to do to help them succeed. Because it's about them, and making it about them will help make the organization stronger, if that makes sense.
It completely makes sense. I mean, what better approach as you touch on than that, especially going back to your earlier comment about a desire to really connect people and to serve them from a place of everyone has an opportunity for improvement, not just serving your own personal interests or political aspirations.
Exactly right. I think when we humans make it about our own self and our own aspirations, whether they're political or otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
we really lose opportunities. We lose opportunities to do something more than the sum of ourselves. And I encourage everyone to take that higher level approach. Just give it a shot.
That's fantastic. It's great encouragement, and hopefully one that falls on, I would say, receptive ears.
I think it will. From what I've heard in your previous podcast, your guests are extremely positive, and I'm betting that your thousands of subscribers enjoy this podcast because it is uplifting and inspiring, and that's what I hope to do in my little tiny way, inspire people.
I think we're off to a great start. Let's just we'll keep they say I just forgot what they say in French, but let the good times roll. So, le bon temps roulé.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, c'est la vie. And so from that standpoint, you the piece that I heard that a lot of people hopefully picked up on as well, that you took an opportunity to go outside of your area, local area, if you will. You attended a national meeting, and when given an opportunity, you thoughtfully shared your perspective. Someone observed that and literally tapped you on the shoulder. Once again, we're hearing the power of connecting with people and the power of relationships.
Absolutely, Michael. That's another thing that I can encourage our wonderful appraisal profession to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've come through that age of we don't really want to be joiners anymore, right? We're so busy. We've got so many things to do that we fail to help ourselves by becoming joiners. But there is such power of getting out of your home office, getting together with other peers of like mind, sharing ideas all through my career. When I can meet with others and hear what they're doing, I learned so much. I learned so much more about how I should proceed in my career, things that I can do to be more impactful. And I really encourage people to, become a joiner. Become a joiner again.
I like that.
Join one of our sponsoring or partner organizations. Join a state coalition. Form a little coffee clutch of like-minded appraisers to get together and talk about, wow, how are you handling artificial intelligence? How are you handling XYZ? We've got this whole new upzoning thing going on. How are we going to handle that? And you get together and you have the conversations and you'll learn something. So please consider doing that.
Yeah. And when you make that point of encouragement, drawing on your own experience, what are some of the expected and even unexpected benefits that would come from it? Because again, one of the opportunities here by having such a diverse group of peers join us is to shine light where others might not be looking, or they could be looking, but they may not see what others see.
Michael, I get so much personal benefit out of the interaction that I have with this broad array of individuals that are on our board of trustees. We have residential appraisers, commercial appraisers, business valuers, personal property appraisers, and that can be fine arts, it can be tchotchkes.
Wow.
We've got people who aren't appraisers, who are attorneys. We've got former regulators, but each of them has such amazing stories and perspectives, and the ability to learn from one another is really phenomenal. So surround yourself with not just those who are like you, but those that might tweak your interest to something new and broader. This appraisal profession is fantastic. I mean, and the one I forgot was mass appraisal. And that's
one out there.
Mass appraisal is huge. It involves all counties, all jurisdictions, everywhere, and is just such an opportunity to appraisers who are credentialed.
Yes,
but maybe they're looking to expand what they're doing beyond their current niche. Is there something else that they can take on or learn? And those opportunities will come when you're around other professionals.
I think that is an important highlight, and especially one of the benefits in the role that you have ascended to is being involved with multiple valuers, not just one particular discipline, which there's nothing wrong with people that develop a specialty and they spend time with those individuals that are performing the same type of services to clients. But it's quite a different thing when you get an opportunity to speak to others that may be employing a similar approach, but serve a whole different marketplace.
Exactly. It is fascinating. And because you can bring people together and because of the conversations, you never know when that will spark something new. and will create an opportunity to envision something incredibly innovative and new, that if you can work together on it, it can happen. I remember the days when simulated training as an alternative to experience was just a concept.
Oh, wow.
It's just a concept. And after years of exploring and thinking about it and overcoming the naysayers, the practical applications of real estate appraisal, simulated way for people who can't find a traditional supervisor to help them gain their experience, is now on the street. I was so excited personally for my professional career to help make that vision a reality, to develop a grant to incentivize the marketplace, to create that. It was an amazing process that I got to be involved in. We had an outside consultant, computer consultant, analyze what it would cost for the foundation to build a model PORIA, that could be then used by others. And that analysis came back that it would cost between $6 and $16 million for us to create.
Wow.
But it also found that the biggest cost driver was because of the content that would have to be developed.
Yes.
And others in the marketplace had that content. So how could we harness that? So strategically, we decided, let's develop a grant system that people in the marketplace could apply for and reach our goals, which were, reaching out and offering pathways to people who couldn't find a supervisor to get into the profession. So we offered that grant. The Appraisal Institute, in conjunction with the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers, were awarded that grant. And now those PORIA modules are on the street. The last time I heard an update, it was something like 300 people that are in the pipeline to go through PORIA right now. So it's making a fantastic difference, but that's because of the power of creativity and thought of appraisers coming together and envisioning a future, and then giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much for helping find a way to make it happen. So
it was a
phenomenal experience.
It sounds like it. It reminds me of the first time I had heard about the X-Prize, which many people are probably not familiar with, but it has a similar approach, which is they want to solve significant problems, but they recognize they're not the ones to solve it, but they can provide an incentive for people that could solve it to come forward. And the first, X-Prize is phenomenal stuff. You can look it up. It's literally the word X-Prize in foundation. And they'll start out with like a $10 million prize. So they took a different approach, but nonetheless, they said, look, we know somewhere out in the world, there are many people, maybe working solo, working together, that have vast amounts of information, knowledge, and ability to create solutions. And we want to reward them, and we want to speed up the pace of innovation. So slightly different approach, but nonetheless the same intended outcome, which is to bring something into existence which had never existed before.
And harnessing the power of people.
Harnessing
the power of people who may not be in a room together right now, but you can bring them together to solve complex problems. I love those things.
That is definitely the case. Well, Kelly, given everything that you've seen and everything you've experienced and all that you are involved in, what are you most optimistic about over the next 3 to 5 years?
I'm very optimistic about the future of the appraisal profession. I'm bullish on it. I know that we are always going to want these smart people giving independent, objective, impartial evaluations for the clients that they serve. It's not an easy task. And there are all kinds of people trying to politicize the appraisal process. And there are all kinds of people trying to, let's develop some sort of alternative. But I know, working with appraisers through the years, I know that they will come together, that there will be unity and there will be solutions that come forth. And they will harness they will harness the power of working together to solve these problems. I've seen it happen in the past, and I'm absolutely confident that it will continue to happen in the future. Valuation and risk management is too important. And there are so many avenues that appraisal can take to help people understand. I think that there's a move by some for-profit entities to perhaps provide funding for individuals to do pre-selling appraisals. All right, that's another avenue. That's another avenue that we can take, right?
Yes.
So that they know what their value is in their home, and they know what that benefit that they might have going into a transaction with somebody else. It's not just the appraisal for the lender. How can we open up appraisals for consumers as well? I'm very, very encouraged by the way that the appraisal profession is opening its doors to previously unrecognized groups, those that didn't see themselves as appraisers before. The Appraiser Diversity Initiative is gung-ho. I'm a real champion of supporting that effort. And I'm, all the organizations that have come together to support that initiative to bring new people into this profession, they just need to be applauded for that work. And I think we need to keep that up. I believe even with technology, we've always said technology was going to, ruin XYZ profession. I started out when we were using carbon paper and we knew computers were going
Kelly,
to
what's
ruin
carbon
us.
paper for those people that only know TikTok?
Yeah, so carbon paper and whiteout to correct mistakes.
Whiteout. Oh my God, I thought that was a snow condition out in Colorado.
No. And guess what? We produce more things on paper now than we ever have in the past. So I'm not afraid of technology. I think we can harness its power to even help us do our work better. And I think the future is bright in valuation. I'm very optimistic for the future.
Well, that is wonderful to hear, and definitely appreciate all your perspective on that, because I think that's one of the challenges that so many people struggle with from time to time, is just not having the same broader perspective, or because of the role that you're in, the opportunity to connect with individuals across disciplines, across industries. And therefore, when you add up, we have that assemblage of multiple perspectives, the overarching outlook is quite different, much like the real estate across the country. There might be one mean or median price across the country, but each individual market is completely different.
And each person's view of their home or their piece of property is personal.
No, people get personal.
It's personal. Oh my gosh. I wanted that first little house in the worst way. I wish that appraiser wouldn't have given me that inflated price value, so I got that loan, because it took me 11 years and taking money to the closing to finally get out of that house transaction. So appraisers can help you. They can be your sword and your shield. Goodness, they got to be trained in working ethically.
Yes, those are important characteristics. Indeed. Well, Kelly, I am so grateful for you to join us for another episode of Perusing's The Power of Values. And everyone, as I mentioned, there's such a bright perspective on the valuation industry, if you will, not just real estate appraisal, but so many other disciplines that, make a difference in the lives and businesses of those here in this country. So grateful. Look forward to seeing your comments. I know Kelly does as well. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. You have just a wonderful rest of your day.
Wonderful. Thank you. And until our next episode, have a fantastic day and continue to enjoy 2024.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.